Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Murphy at University of Wisconsin La Crosse. Welcome, Coach.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Just want to say congratulations. As of yesterday, the D3 poll came out. You guys got that number 25 slot with your hot start to the season. So congratulations there.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Although
Thanks.
when people listen to this, you guys are, probably still undefeated and like top five by the time people will hear this one. So, but
That
we'll
that
hope, right? Fingers
that'd be
crossed.
wonderful. We won't complain about that.
Well, and we're talking here September 10th. You're 4 games in the season. Give me an idea. What's the amount of time you're spending, like percentage of your workday on recruiting versus the day to day in season?
Yeah, I would probably frame it over like a week.
Yeah.
Some days we do a lot, some days we might not do very much. But we're probably in that 25 to 30% range on a
Wow.
week to week basis. Obviously during preseason it's a little bit less. But now once our students are back in school, and so we don't see them all day, like they might pop in and stuff, but really we plan training, we get ready for matches, do some scouting, and then we spend a little bit of time in recruiting hopefully every day just to stay on top of it and stay organized.
And for you guys as a kind of a top D3 program, in terms of your, I guess, timeline, are you, well, we're talking, like I said, September 10th. Where are you with the class of 26? And are you having 27 conversations yet? Kind of what does that timeline look like for you guys?
Yeah, it's the Wild West out there right now. So as the NCAA changes daily, it feels like in terms of what recruiting is going to look like and that kind of stuff. I think everything's just changed, and we talk about it as a staff, and I joke around with like our basketball coaches and stuff. The NCAA is changing a ton over here, and then the landscape of college youth soccer is changing every day in terms of like growth and that kind of stuff. And so, um, at this point, we're almost done with our 26s. We have six players, five field players, and a goalkeeper committed. So we have six players committed, and we'll probably add a few more, but not a ton. And then we're definitely having conversations with 27s and have compiled a pretty cool list and pretty excited about some of them. And they're going to come to matches and kind of come see campus again. Most of them have either been on campus for a camp or been on campus, and so really get them back, do a tour, and meet with the missions and do that kind of stuff, and hang out with the team, and maybe watch a match or watch us train and do that kind of stuff, and see if this is the right fit for them.
Okay. Well, in your recruiting of 26s, 27s, whatever it may be, where do you like to go to see players? How, are you looking at high school games? What tournaments do you go to? What does that kind of look like for you guys?
Yeah, it's so like we kind of recruit Midwest, the upper Midwest, a lot of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, a little bit of Iowa. Currently on our roster, we have a Montana kid. We graduated a California kid next year. We have 26s. We have an Arizona kid committed and a Kansas kid committed. So getting a little bit of a bigger footprint, but a lot of the clubs that we recruit in the Midwest have now become GA and either ECNL or RL clubs, and so we've talked about it probably a better utilization of our time and our resources to fly to California for 3 days, pound out a whole bunch of games as opposed to driving 3 hours to go watch one game and then 3 hours back. And so it's really changed over the last 2 years. I think it's going to even change more drastically because we had a big influx of GA clubs and RL clubs in Wisconsin and Minnesota this last year. And so um, I envision that we're going to be a 4 to 5 events kind of recruiting a year. That's where we get our mass recruiting done. We go to high school games. We've limited that more and more, just largely because I think our resources are better spent at these big club events where we can see more teams and that kind of stuff. But every year we definitely go see high school games in Wisconsin. In Illinois and Iowa. We do see it's hard for us to see Minnesota because Minnesota women or girls play in the fall, so it's a little bit more challenging. But we do get to high school games, but I think we're going to get to the point where the lion's share of our stuff is at a couple events a year. and then find the kids, identify the kids, and then that's when you go see them in high school. You go see them in a one-off game and like that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, what about ID camps? They seem to be more and more in a coach's recruiting arsenal these days. Do you guys do your own, or do you or your staff work other ones? Are they part of your process at all?
Yeah, so we do our own. We basically have two a year. We have one in August, like mid-August, right before preseason starts for us. And I think this year was like the 10th. That's been a big one for us. A lot of our players have come through that camp. And then we do something kind of cool in the spring. In the spring, us and St. Mary's University in Minnesota, they're about 25 minutes up the road. We do a joint one where we do the morning session at their on their campus, and then we do the afternoon session on our campus. And so it's kind of a cool little thing where we've put our resources together and we're both Division 3. We recruit a little bit against each other, but really we found that like the right fit for UWL isn't usually the right fit for St. Mary's. It probably maybe it is from a soccer standpoint, but not the rest of what our campuses offer. And so Nick and I, Coach Rizzo and I have been able to kind of work together, and we've actually it's a pretty cool experience, pretty cool camp.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I love that. Well, whether it's camp, a tournament, high school game, whatever the case may be, kind of what makes up the hierarchy of things you're looking for in a player, both on and off the field.
Yeah, I think we're lucky. We're like a mid-size public school. So we're pretty cost effective relative to most college experiences these days. So we find we look for players that can be successful here on campus. We have a pretty cool social life on our campus, if we're being straight away about it. So, and our academics are pretty good. And so you have to be able to balance all three. And so it's really important for us to find young women who can find the balance between being able to basically have these three big silos and being able to allocate the resources properly. We found that you can't do all three of them at 100%. There's just not enough time in your day and enough resources. And then we like to play possession soccer. We're probably a little bit more possession-based program than a lot of college programs, a lot of Division 3 college programs. So it's important that you can play with 2 feet, you can move, you understand movement. Like if I look at you and say, I need you to sit in this pocket, if you look at me like I'm talking from the moon, it's not going to go over very well, you know? And so we like to use terminology and talk like that. So we really look for that. But largely the biggest thing we search for is players that want to be in a super competitive program that aren't searching for their minutes, but are searching just to grow and develop as a player and understand that like if you play well, you're going to play. And if you don't play well, you're not going to play because the kid next to you is going to be playing well. And that's how it works. So we work really hard to find players that like thrive in that competitive environment and that competitive moment. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy that process. I enjoy the recruiting process. So it's great to get to meet all these people and figure out who's the right fit for us and who are we the right fit for and that kind of stuff.
That's great. Well, you mentioned cost, and I'm not going to hold you to hard numbers here, but as a former D3 player myself, and it was funny, I just found like my college catalog view book from 1998 or whatever it was to see the cost of what college was, which shocked me because both my wife and I went to Catholic and we looked at it. I was like, man, I thought it was like $10,000, $20,000 more than this. I guess it wasn't bad, but I guess that's time value of money. But uh,
Correct. Yeah.
so people question D D3 just because of
Yep.
cost. Hey, no athletic scholarships.
Yep.
Just give me a general sense of what does an average player coming to you? What are they looking at from an academic package, overall cost, that kind of thing, just in broad strokes.
Yeah, so so we have in-state tuition, obviously. We're government funded kind of, yeah, it's we're a state school. So we have in-state tuition for Wisconsin kids, and we have reciprocity with Minnesota. So Minnesota students can come to Wisconsin for virtually in-state tuition too. Um, our in-state, I think this year is right around 16,000. That's room, board, and tuition. So
Oh, wow.
that's a real good value. To get academic money here, as an in-state student, so meaning a Wisconsin or Minnesota resident, you got to be pretty bright. You got to have pretty good ACT or SAT, and then pretty high GPA. So most of we tell our kids, we tell the kids that we're recruiting that as an in-state person, you should be prepared to pay full price. Again, 16 being full price, you know. Um, so that's kind of where we're at. We're out of state, we're about 24, 25 for out of state students. There is a little bit more money available for out of state students. Like our campus does a really good job of enticing those kids and doing that kind of stuff. But really, again, not a terrible value. And so um, it's it's more we really recruit on the pretext that like this is the price. If it comes lower than that, great, but you have to be we can't you can't fall in love with us if your family's not prepared to start at that number, you know?
Sure.
Um, and so we really do that and that kind of stuff. But we
Okay.
have a lot of bright kids on our team that are getting some good academic money. But when I say bright, I'm talking 32,
Oh,
33
wow.
ACT kind of stuff. And so, yeah, so really, really do well from that standpoint.
Well, that's one of the blessings of recruiting women's soccer, right? That you tend to
It
get more of
is.
those than you don't. So,
It is. It is. It is. Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Well, no, I
Yes.
mean, and I appreciate that outlook because I feel like that's different than a lot of other schools. A lot of it's like it's like it's going to a car dealership. There's an MSRP, but no one actually pays that. So but you guys kind of like you're more what's the dang it. Now I'm blanking on the name of the car place. That does the no haggle pricing. This is the price of
Yeah.
the car,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that's which is good because I think it'd be a lot easier for people if there was more of that rather than the here's
Yeah.
the high price, but it goes down here, 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 and you just have no idea what you're actually getting yourself into. But
We have a ton of scholarships available for returning students, like through our foundation. And basically, if you apply for it, you have a chance to get it and like that kind of stuff. So there's a website that we share with everybody, and there's stuff available for incoming freshmen too. It's just a lot of them are like in your major, and like you have to have a major declared and like stuff like that, and that's hard to do before you get here and stuff. But so for a long time, we had a tuition freeze, and I was able to say that pretty much everyone pays less the most they pay is their freshman year. Well, the tuition freeze has been lifted by our state government, so I can't say that anymore. But a lot of our kids get money sophomore, junior, and senior year that they didn't get freshman year, which I think is good to help alleviate the cost and with stuff going up and that kind of stuff. So it's good.
yeah, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit more about the school.
Yeah.
So you've been there a number of years now. You've had some great success, but talk to me what makes what makes the school unique? What are some cool things about the school? Maybe some things we wouldn't even know by going through the website.
Yeah, we have first class facilities. We have a soccer lacrosse facility that just us and women's lacrosse use. We have a touchline building that has team rooms and press box and storage and restrooms and officials rooms and stuff. So we have a big football stadium. We just built a what was it? $36 million indoor facility for track and field and that everybody can train in and stuff like that. So if indoor field house and so I think from that standpoint, we stand out a little bit from a Division three perspective. And then we get the best of both worlds. We're a mid-tier public school that's super athletic and has great student body just in general. Um, and so we get a lot of bright students who played multi-sports in high school. It was a multi-sport athlete in high school, whether they come here to play college sports or not. We kind of get the best of both worlds. So it's a pretty active campus and pretty cool environment to be in. Obviously, when you have 12,000 students in the same place, the social scene can be cool and that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot going on. And then our academics are nationally ranked and one of the best every year. We're one of the best schools in the state of Wisconsin and one of the best schools in Midwest. And so we can attract the the kid looking for the cool college experience, but we also can really attract the student that's looking to go to med school and wants to get an undergrad that prepares them for med school or PA school or PT school or whatever they're looking for. So I enjoy that part about it. I was from Wisconsin. I went to a state school and then did my master's here. And so I really value the state school education and can really think do a good job selling that and talking about how it can set you up for the rest of your life, whether you want to coach soccer or be a doctor, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you mentioned before, obviously that balance between the social life, the school life, and the sports life, right? So specifically balancing that being a student athlete, what kind of support systems are there on campus to help students make sure they're successful both on the field but also in the classroom?
Yeah, our campus does a great job of supporting our student athletes in terms of most of the faculty are, almost all the faculty are fantastic in terms of like, oh, you have a match? Great. Good luck. We'll cover everything when you get back. Do you know what I'm saying? And so the support that we get on campus is we just started classes last week, and so all of our players take a form letter to all their professors and give it to them. And I got a bunch of emails back like, oh, I'm so excited to have so and so in class. I played soccer in high school, or I did this and that and stuff. And so that part's really, really cool. Really appreciative of the support we get. I tell all of our student athletes, especially in the recruiting process, when they ask the question about like, what kind of support do you have? I said, the biggest support you're going to have is you have 28 to 30 other women who are living the same thing you did, that have taken the classes, have had the different professors. A large part of college is taking the professor that's going to teach you what you need to know. If it's a class in your major and you need it, then you need to take you might need to take the hardest professor, the person that's going to teach you the most. If it's a gen ed class that you just have to get an A in, then maybe that's not the best solution. And so we really talk a lot about the resources, and our campus does a great job in terms of the writing lab, the tutoring center, all that kind of stuff is super available to our student athletes, and really gives them the resources and the opportunity to like do well. There's always the stigma that like, well, I can't go use that. But as we continue to grow, evolve as a society, the stigma is getting less and less, and we have more like I beg our freshmen the first couple of weeks. I'm like, go to the writing center, and they're like, why? And I said, well, because they're going to make sure you get an A. Seems pretty reasonable, and you pay for it. It's part of your tuition, so go use it. So we really try to talk to our players about using those resources that are available on campus and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's good. Well, let's fast forward into next month, right? Heart of that conference schedule. Walk me through what's a typical week look like for the players in terms of winter meals, practices, classes, game
Yeah.
cadence, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky. So we train 3 to 5 every day, which is good. Post-COVID, it just kind of things that has things changed post-COVID. There's not a lot of positives, but from COVID, but there's a couple, and one of them is that like our class schedules kind of changed. So before COVID, we struggled to get everyone to training by 4. We'd start at 4, and we'd have a couple kids show up late, and now we've been lucky that we can start every day at 3, so we can get out of here, so they can get out of here by 5:30, and then. Get out of locker room by 5:30 and have time to eat and study and have a life, I think, which is really important. We try to really stay in that 3 to 5 range. So obviously, if they have to do training room before and after, that kind of eats up a little bit more time. But we really don't. Once school starts, we really try not to take much of their time outside of that, because I feel like they chose to come to a Division 3 school so they could have a balance, and I think it's really important to meet them in that balance. I think we can still be really competitive and compete at a national level and still allow our kids to not have film in the morning and lifting in the afternoon and then training in the evening. And so we try really hard to stay in that window. We do lift a little bit. Days we lift, we get done training a little bit early, and then we go about 20 minutes, 30 minutes after. So we'll get into that 2.5 hour range on lifting days, 1 or 2 days a week in season. But besides for that, we really try to stay in that window. Game day is a little bit different. Sometimes we get on a bus. Like this week, we're getting on a bus on Friday to play Saturday, Sunday on the road. So we do have some of that kind of stuff. But even for home games, we meet an hour and 10 minutes before the match starts, and a lot of them show up an hour, 2 hours before the match. But that's because their rituals and routines are long and stuff like that. And so, and our athletic training staff, Alexis, our athletic trainer, is fantastic, and our students are great. And so, our student athletes do a really good job of taking care of themselves. So a lot of them do spend a lot of time in the athletic training room, but a lot of it's preventative, and a lot of it's just trying to make sure they stay on top of things before it actually costs them training sessions and matches, which is, they're they're young student athletes. What do they want to do? They want to play. Like
Right.
that's what they're here for. They want to play soccer. So we try really hard to find opportunities for them to do that.
That's good. Well, let's talk more about the team. Is there a roster size that you find is ideal that you're trying to hit each year?
Yeah, I've always in my head it's always been around that 30 number. It might be growing a little bit. We like to carry 4 goalkeepers this year. We have 3. We like to carry 3 or 4 goalkeepers. So I've always said that 26, 25, 26 field player range, but realistically it's probably that 26, 27 field player range, just with nicks and injuries and that kind of stuff. We have 29 on the roster this year, 3 goalkeepers, so that's 26 field players. And we've had quite a few days in a row now here where we can't play 11s because We're got people that are dinged up, and sure, we're conservative. Like we hold you out of trainings and stuff like that just to make sure that your sore quad doesn't become a strained quad or a pulled quad. But ultimately, that's the reality, and it happens every year. So then we have to plan accordingly. But I like to think at most positions that we have two and a half players at every position. So we have two left backs, and then we have a third player that can play left back, but she also maybe plays center back or she plays left winger and stuff like that. So that's kind of our magic number.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the rest of the roster, the coaching staff. Now, I will
Yeah.
say, going to your website, looking at the coaching staff link, it's the single most number of assistant coaches I think I've ever seen, especially at a
Yeah.
D3 program. So talk to me
Yeah.
about your staff. Who else is there? What roles does everybody play? What's that look like?
Yeah, so it this is the biggest we've ever been, and I've been pretty nervous about it, but it's actually been working way better than I could have ever anticipated. So Ellie Arndt played for us for 5 years. She was a COVID freshman in 20, and then played for 4 years. Was a three-time All-American, and our full-time assistant from last year left, and Ellie has transitioned into that role. So she's here. Her office is right next to mine. She's here every day. Um, Ryan is actually a full-time assistant here. He's in a joint role. We have a pretty cool agreement with our local soccer club. So he's the DOC of the club, but works full time at UWL. His office is also right next to mine. So he's here full time. So we're pretty lucky. We have two full time soccer coaches. Now, they both have other duties, but realistically, they're on campus every day. They function as full time soccer coaches. They travel with us and that kind of stuff. So that's really good. Joe, Coach Cerniak has been with me all 12 years. He's a longtime friend of mine. He's a social studies teacher in town. He's my voice of reason. I'm pretty high strung, high energy. That's who I am. And he's my calming piece. My wife says that he's the one that reminds me to sit back down on the touchline, that nobody wants to listen to me talk at this time. So he's been with me the whole time. So he's a great asset to our program. He comes to pretty much everything in fall and that kind of stuff. Does a lot of recruiting for us. He and I have been together for so long that we can look at the same kid and kind of think the same thing. Um, he says he can go recruiting and watch a kid and say, I think this is what this kid can do in our program. And then I'll go watch the kid and I'll be like, I agree. And so that's a really nice feature to have. And then we have a couple other players that are a couple other people that have joined us. So Kenny Lloyd used to play in our program, and he's been our goalkeeping assistant. He's just part-time. He works here in town. Actually, him and his girlfriend are still in town because she's gonna go to she played for in our program and she's gonna go to vet school next year. So she's just taking a gap year. So they're kind of hanging out. So he comes and trains our goalkeepers, did last year, and then he trains our goalkeepers this year. So he's around a little bit. Actually, a lot of times he warms them up and then he goes sits on the other side because he wants to sit with his friends and that kind of stuff, which totally understand. And then Ari Green and Alexis Mann played for us. She was also a COVID freshman, played for 4 years. She's still in town. She's gap yearing, working before she goes to med school. And then Ari Green played at St. Kate's, started at St. Thomas and played at St. Kate's. Very good player, all region player, all American. And she's in town and she works from home as a data analyst. And so Alexis and Ari have been around a lot, but they're also doing a lot of film stuff for us, a lot of data analysis. They're both kind of statistical nerds in a positive way. And so that's been really good, really awesome for our program. And as we joked one day when we were sitting on the touchline for a match, we have 7 All-American awards sitting on our touchline that get to interact with our players every day. And I think that's a huge impact. I think it's really important that we put young women in front of our players and that they can say, I can be like them. I can aspire to be like them. And so, yeah, so it is big. We're lucky we have two full-time assistants. We have a lot of other people that spend a lot of time in support of this program, but I think it's worked out really well so far. I'm knocking on wood that we can continue this year because we've never been this big, but it's been awesome.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Well, you've given me a lot of time. I want to be respectful here, but I'm going to leave you with one last question, and
Yeah.
that is, if you had one piece of advice to give, a girl class 26, 27 going through this process, what would that be?
Yeah, I know I tell everyone that comes and visits our campus, you get to make 5 or 6 really life-changing decisions in your life. A lot of them happen when you're a young adult or even an adult. Unfortunately, our society has set it up where one you have to make in your teenage years, and it can be scary. Um, and be in control of it, enjoy it. I know that it probably involves some tears sometimes, but the reality is that most of the time you're having to choose between two or three really good options. And it's just a matter of finding the perfect option. But a lot of your college experience is based on what you make of it. And I believe that strongly. And I went to a school and had a great time. I wouldn't change it. But I also know that I could have gone to a bunch of other schools and had a totally different experience, but still really look back on it and been positive about it and enjoyed it. And the other thing I'll say is I think it's really, really important that you do some deep diving into the programs you're looking at. Ask the coaches the hard questions, get on their campus, hang out with their players, ask the players the hard questions. It's okay. It's okay if players leave the program. That happens today. Okay, it is. It's a reality. It's not okay, and it's you should ask questions if they're bringing in 12 kids in every recruiting class and graduating two for consecutive years. For 5 years in a row. I think that's why. And there's reasons to it sometimes. Injuries, that kind of stuff. We had we had two kids leave the program this year in preseason for the first time in 10 years I've had a player leave the program in preseason. Now, one of them was hurt. Like she coming off an ACL, couldn't get it right. Like, and so I can talk about that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that, like I'm not ashamed of that. It was hard for me. I love the kid to death. I wish her nothing the best. She could have really done it, but it was just your body sometimes tells you that it's over. And so I think it's really, really important that these young players and these high school players and these kids getting recruited take control of the process and just ask the tough questions and have the great conversations. And coaches say no. I say no to players that are really good all the time. And it's not because you're not good. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not for any reason except for the fact that maybe our roster construction is just bad timing. I've said no to a bunch of players in 26, and I look at my assistants. I said, "Damn, if that kid was a 27, oh my God, she could be so good here." And then I just pray she doesn't go to a school that I have to play every year. And so it is the reality. And so I have to say no a lot, and it's not because I don't think you could be special. I don't think you're a cool kid. I don't think you're smart. I don't think you're good enough. All those things aren't necessarily true. Sometimes it's just a matter of it's the nature of the beast, and we have to manage our rosters. And I feel very strongly that I have a commitment to our current players. And I do really, really, really try to hold that dear to my heart that, like, yeah, I could have 40 kids every year if we wanted and 40 really good players, but that's not fair to the kids that have already come here and worked their butt and were promised that we would stay in that 30 plus or minus 2 or 3 range for their career. And I believe that I have to hold true to that. So
No, that's awesome. Well, Coach, I really appreciate it. Wish you nothing but the best of luck the rest of the season. You're off to that hot start. I hope it stays that way. And if you make it to, any of the events down here in Bradenton, give me a shout and we'll get together. All right.
we can definitely do that. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.